Welcome to episode number 6 of the Retro Gaming Roundtable. And today we're going to talk about our most valuable pieces in our collection. And we're going to have a really good discussion on collecting retro games today. And we got kind of a big show in store for you today. We have a guest star, and he is going to debut on today's show. And that is Ryan from 123 Gamerman.
Yo, what is up, YouTube? 123 Gamerman here. And today,
welcome, Ryan.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys.
How's it going?
Glad I'm on the channel.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I just
Thanks
had
for joining us.
A quick question for you here, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Was there any way we could maybe see your face today?
You can't see my face?
No, sir.
Oh.
I see a lot of great games, but
geez. Okay, hold on. Here we go.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Hold on a second. You're telling me that I've had the camera turned around all these years?
Dude, are you using an iPhone? Don't feel bad, because I'm always flipping it. So,
Thanks for having me on.
hey, it's great that you're on. This is going to be a lot of fun. So let's introduce the rest of the members of the roundtable here. We got Jason from the Kinda Cool YouTube channel. We got Mark
having me back
from the Dad Racer YouTube channel.
How's it going, everybody?
And we got Lyndon from Old School Games and Stories. He is packing heat. I like it.
We're breaking
All
out
right.
the big gun tonight.
You got the big gun. Yeah, you know, even though it might be from the lesser of the two 16-bit systems, but you know, it's all good, man.
Dagger to my heart, man.
Lesser of the three, I should say, 16-bit system. All right. Well, today we're going to show off our most valuable piece in our collection. And I thought it was just, well, we all agreed. We all came up with the idea to ask Ryan from the 123 Gamerman YouTube channel. It's only fitting to have him on a show about collecting retro gaming in 2021. So, Ryan, do you care to share your most valuable piece in your collection?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's actually something that I acquired fairly recently, and it is it's not a game. It's a box. It is my Zombies Ate My Neighbors variant box. This is an interesting box. There were only, supposedly only about 1,000 manufactured. And the reason why they came out with this variant box is because the ESRB started to form right around this time, and Zombies Ate My Neighbors needed an ESRB rating, and so they ended up creating a new box for that ESRB rating. I have a couple of thoughts about collecting high value items, because and my opinions might surprise you, because I think about it in two different sections. Section one over here is like, should I collect for value? And then the other one is, should I collect to invest? And those are two entirely different things to me, because this is just my opinion. If you want to invest in something, you should invest in a mutual fund, right? Like, video games is a terrible place to invest. If we've learned anything over the last couple of years, is that this market is volatile, it's highly skeptical, and it's not a mature market. It hasn't been around that long as an established marketplace. And so, I mean, you've seen it. You jump on eBay, completed listings, you go to, price charting or whatever. Those games go up and down like crazy. So depending on when you get into that market or buy that item might not actually maintain its value. It may spike, it may drop. I mean, it's crazy. And so in terms of being a smart investor, video games would be one of the last things that I would invest in personally.
Yeah.
Now, the other side of it is investing for value, but that's different, right? Because we were talking about this before. I said, I don't think that there's any game that's worth several $100s just to play, right? Like there's no way that you know, a little Samson is $1,000+ to play, because I don't know, I just can't think. There are so many other things that I would rather do with that kind of money than play a video game. But at the same time, I do think that sometimes it can be a good idea to buy more valuable video games if you're paying something called, what I call, the rental price, which is maybe you're able to find a video game or find a box or something along those lines that you take a lot of joy in. And the most money that you're going to lose on it is like paying a rental fee for having the experience of owning it for a while, or having the experience of being able to show it off and share it with people and things like that. And so that's my perspective. That's how I approach the market. And so on one hand, I think it keeps me honest in terms of in terms of what I put into the collection, because I think, especially with video games, and you guys know this, I know this, it's very easy to get carried away. And it's very easy, especially at the beginning, to get carried away and just buy up everything. I mean, it's so easy. Just click, 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 click. I am really intentional about what I buy. And I'm like, all right, if I'm paying more than $20, is this the rental price that I'm willing to pay? And if the answer to that question is yes, then I'll buy it, but I'll also be like very willing to get rid of it too, if I need to. And that's kind of the other thing too, is it's kind of like gambling, right? You don't want to go into a casino with more money than you can lose. Because the house always wins. And in this particular case, the hobby always wins, right? So that's the way that I view it. And the other thing that kind of makes me do is it has turned me into a little bit of a cheapskate, if I'm being honest. Not so much among collectors, if I'm like trading with collectors, but I try to hustle so hard on Facebook Marketplace and on Macari and doing the garage sales and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like if that's something that you enjoy, if you love the thrill of the hunt, then that can be a reward all on its own. And if you find something that's valuable, you're almost like turning game collecting into a game. And that's part of engaging in the hobby. And that's the way that I kind of approach it. Sorry, I'm going on too long.
No, you're good, man. That's excellent points. And that's why we asked you on today. Absolutely. Some very good points. Mark from Dad Racer.
Before we move on, I got a question though. Since we're talking about value, Ryan,
do it.
How much is that box worth? Because I've seen
that's
the video.
a good question.
Video.
How much is the box worth? So if you go to price charting, it'll tell you it's worth like $850 or something like that. I did recently get an offer on this box for $1,500. So price charting, it can be this is how you know the market is so volatile. Price charting can be behind the times because only about one of these sells every 6 months. So it's an uncommon item. And so if you're looking at something like price charting, for this item, you're looking at old data. With COVID and with the bump of everything, this took off as well. And I think people are starting to become aware of this more because there's a lot of like buzz around Zombies Ate My Neighbors right now.
Yeah. It's definitely an awesome piece, man. Thanks for sharing that with us. That's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It is very unique and awesome. Yeah. And price charting. Yeah. You bring up some good points on price charting, and I'll kind of get to that when I have my reveal of what I feel is the most valuable piece of my collection. But Mark from Dad Racer.
I was going to say, thoughts? that the rental price, that really resonated with me. I'm just going to take some notes here. I'm going to tell my wife that one. Rental price.
Let us know how that works for you too, by the way.
All right.
Please
Hold on. I don't want to be responsible for anything. So I need you to say on camera, whatever happens, it's not my fault.
Yeah, this guy 123 Gamer Man, he came up with the term.
Hey Ryan, at least you prefaced it with it. There's better ways to invest, right? There's better ways to invest.
Better ways to invest.
Yeah. Well, you know, I started my video game career sort of mainly had Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and then Nintendo 64 growing up, and those were my main home consoles that I had. Nintendo, Super Nintendo, And then I got the Nintendo 64, and then the Nintendo and Super Nintendo were garage saled by my parents, everything. And I had a lot of games for those systems. Got the Nintendo 64. I had, I don't know, between 10 and 20 games. And interestingly enough, we never retained any of the boxes for Nintendo or the Super Nintendo games. We always put them in the plastic, you know, the blue, the yellow, and the pink clamshells for the Nintendo games. And then the Super Nintendo games, I think we did the same thing. I can't really remember, but we retained all of the boxes for my Nintendo 64 games. And the only thing that I still have from my sort of childhood collection, so to speak, are my boxed Nintendo 64 games. Everything else that you see over here is in addition to the 64 games when I started getting back into collecting again in roughly 2013. So, you know, compared to you guys, I'm going to just say I'm a small-time collector. So for this video, what I did is I went on my handy-dandy Game Aes app, sorted by most valuable item in the collection, and it just so happens that it is the complete in-box Super Mario 64 that I have here. So when I checked a week or so ago, speaking of fluctuation, I mean, 10 or 20% fluctuation up and down. You know, I checked a few weeks ago and it was like 220. Now it's around 180. Certainly more expensive, a lot more expensive than it was, you know, in 96 or whatever. But interestingly enough about this, I'm going to take you through a tour here. Not many people know this, okay? There's a lot of doodads in here, you know, when we're talking about complete games. We've got this thing. Don't worry, I'm not going to start throwing stuff around the room. I don't want you guys to freak out. You know, we've got the manual, of course, beautiful manual, real thick, nice color manual.
It's awesome.
There's something special about this because this is what they call the Federal Reserve Edition. Okay, I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but we got a wad of cash here, so this pumps up the value quite a bit. Okay, so it's sitting around, you know, about $720 right now, a little bit up from the 220. What a revolutionary game for the time. I think this came out a couple of years later than the PlayStation, right? PlayStation was released in, what, 94? This comes along, and to me, just absolutely mind-blowing. No load times, just a revolutionary thing. And I remember seeing it for the first time in Toys R Us, and just a magical time to get it. So, yeah, that's the most valuable thing that I have, right around $180 at this point in time.
Nice. Yeah, I wasn't aware of the Federal Reserve variant. That
no,
is pretty
I'm sitting with you guys here. I got to, you know, kind of pump it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Mark, I have it on
cash.
good authority.
You find cash everywhere, man.
I have it on good authority. It's worth $1.56 million.
I saw a video on that from somebody. Yeah.
I didn't see that one. Did somebody entomb it in some acrylic and, you know, is it one of those?
Oh yeah, it's one of those.
Okay. Yeah. Well.
So you know, I don't know.
You never know.
You might be sitting on a gold mine right there. I mean, does that kind of blow your mind what it's currently worth, though? I mean, Mario 64.
I had no idea. I mean,
yeah.
You know, it's like when you think of common games. I mean, that's the #1 common game on the system.
Right.
Best game on the system.
Yeah.
Yeah. It almost seems strange that it's something. It's not more of a rare piece that's getting all the headlines, right? It's crazy that it's Super Mario 64.
It's crazy.
I guess it's just so iconic, you know, that it's just
yeah, it does seem like the games that make the news about these crazy prices for graded games that win at auction, they're always the Marios, the Zeldas.
Yeah.
They seem to be the more iconic type characters. I wouldn't be surprised if you start to see the Sonics or something like that out there, you know. First time Crash Bandicoot ever occurred in a game, that type of thing.
Yeah.
That's a recent shift, though. You know, that it hasn't always been that way.
Yeah.
Really hasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that, and it goes to the point, fluctuating market. It's, you never know. Lyndon, my man, what do you got for us today?
Most valuable game I have, according to Price Charting, is a complete in-box version of Magic Knight Ray Earth for the Sega Saturn.
Nice.
So this is the very last game released for the Saturn in North America. It was released in '95 in Japan, and then Working Designs picked it up for the translation, and it took them over 2 years to finish it, to do all the voiceovers, to redo all the anime scenes. It took them a while, man. Like I said, it was the very last game released, and it's kind of rare. They did not make many copies of it. I've been lucky enough to have it for quite a while. Awesome. I've been looking on price charting, and I agree with you guys. We talked just last weekend. This was listing at $830. Today, it was at $895. I'll go on eBay. I was watching one this week that was up for auction. It sold for $1,160.
Wow.
So, and then there's 2 more on there. One for asking for, buy it now. One's $13. One's like $12.50 or something. So, I mean, how do you know? How do you know what it's worth? How does the algorithm work? Does it take into the factor of the condition of the game for completing the box stuff? How does it know?
Yeah.
How do you know anything these days? You guys are talking about Mario 64 selling for $1.5 million because it's sealed and has, pretty much the highest grade you can get. Yeah, it's real nice, but is it really one of a kind? Is it rare? I mean, right here's a sealed copy of Xenosaga 2. If I send it off and have it graded, is it the most valuable thing I have? How do you know anymore? It's just crazy. In my opinion, no game worth $1 million. I don't care what it is. Maybe, and I don't know if such a thing exists, maybe if there was a test copy of Super Mario Brothers, the original for the NES, a test copy that was handed to Shigeru Miyamoto himself to take to his office or back to his house and say, yes, this is the final version, send it to production. That might be worth $1 million, but it would be one of a kind.
Right.
It has to have some historical value for me to make sense.
Sure, yeah.
And Mario 64, just because it's a high-grade sealed box for $1.5 million? Are you kidding me? Oh, my goodness. But there's mine. I'm lucky to have it. When I got it, it wasn't worth a whole lot. And over the years, it's just skyrocketed. And this is a good game. I'll bring up something. A couple of episodes ago, Joel threw that pop question on us. What great game does not have a sequel? I said Crystallis.
Yep.
This is about as close as you're going to get. This reminds me of a mixture of Secret of Mana and Crystallis. You have 3 people that you control, and you fight like Crystallis and build your character up like Crystallis. It's a really fun game.
That's awesome.
Really, really good.
Awesome, man.
Not worth $1,000 though.
Jason, go ahead.
All right. Well, I guess I've kind of already outed myself, right? So you can kind of see my most valuable piece of my collection is the Neo Geo Aes, or Advanced Entertainment System, right? So basically, if you subscribe to the theory that retro gamers are going back to revisit past loves, acquiring this console would be like going back and dating the prom queen. So this is the one that everybody kind of really wanted. You lusted after it, but you knew you couldn't have it, right? There's no way you could have it. I knew as soon as I got into collecting retro game and retro gaming hardware that eventually I'd get one of these. And lo and behold, I did. And I've got a couple things that are kind of nipping at its heels lately, especially with kind of the crazy spikes in retro gaming lately. But this is still the most valuable piece. It was when I bought it, and it still is today. And this kind of represents kind of the complete. The gold edition was really one that came with 2 controllers. I don't have 2 controllers here right now, but I only have one. But everything else I have the memory card and the complete Magician Lord game and the console itself. And, I would say that probably, I think it's probably in pretty good condition. You've probably heard me, I carry the curse of being a condition snob, and it's difficult, right? But I would say this one's probably on a scale of 100. It's probably like, I don't know, in the 90s, in the early 90s. It's got a couple scratches and scuffs here and there. But if you know anything about this hardware, it's notoriously known for being relatively fragile and prone to scuffing, scratching, cracking. You got to be really careful when you handle it, when you pack it and store it and those types of things. But, the Neo Geo, it has this kind of aura, or it's almost like kind of a mythical type state that it's had. If you grew up in the 90s, you know about it. With the console wars were going on, you had Neo Geo going with TurboGrafx 16, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, but those guys were really vying for second place because Neo Geo was the alpha dog, right? It was in the silo, 3 or 4 or 5 stories above what they were doing, right? And everybody knew it, but you know, it was such an expensive console. When this came out in 1990, it was $650. And adjusted for inflation, that's like $1,300 or something like that right now. Let's see what it is. Yeah, I think I have it right here. $1,342 adjusted for inflation, right? So that's how much just the console would have been. And then the games themselves were another like $200 a pop. And this is in 1990, 1991, right? So very expensive console to collect for, but it's something, I think because of that, it's one of those things that a lot of retro gamers really want to go back and try to get. You know, it's one of those ones, it's like, you know, the boomers that go back and buy the 65 Mustangs and the 69 Camaros and things like that. This is the retro gaming equivalent of doing that, you know? So it's been a lot of fun to own. You know, I collect for the system, but I don't collect for it to the point where I'm willing to spend, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars. I mean, there are, you know, you think about Neo Geo, you would think that a common game might be something for like the Metal Slug series, but no, those can be thousands and thousands of dollars for a Metal Slug copy for the AES, right? So nothing that I have is really that valuable. I would say this pack-in game right here, which is Magician Lord, is one of the ones that I really wanted because when I walked into Babbage's when I was younger and they had it way back on the back shelf and it was high up above all the peasants so you couldn't even see it or handle it. It had that big includes Magician Lord sticker on it. And that's the one I knew I wanted to come back and get. So that's the one I recollected. And, you know, that's kind of my take on it. You know, it's like Neo Geo Aes is right now my most valuable piece of my and I talk about prices. I would say probably this is about, and I've been looking it up and like Lyndon was saying, things can shift around a lot. I would say the condition that this one's in, and it's actually modded. It has what's called a universal BIOS, UniBIOS 4.0, which allows it to do some things like play different languages and play the arcade experience where you actually load it up with credits, and that actually adds to the value a little bit. I would say this is probably anywhere from probably $700 to $850 with the whole package set up with the pack-in game and the memory card and all that. Wow. So yeah, that's mine.
You know, I had a Japanese import Neo Geo AES, and I ended up selling it. I had like 4 or 5 games for it just because I could not collect for it. I mean, the prices are just incredible. So yeah, and I've heard stories, and it's never happened to me, running into a Neo Geo AES out in the wild or something like that. That would be pretty awesome. But oh yeah. Well, you're on the warpath, dude. You're out there all the time. So that's kind of a good point too. So yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say the most valuable thing in my collection, and there's different ways to say that. The most valuable thing in my collection, in my opinion, is what's worth most to me. You know what I'm saying? But if we're talking money, it's kind of the same thing. It's my Sega Genesis complete in box that I've had forever. And it's got everything. It's all complete. It's all there. On eBay, and this is what my issue with price charting is, on eBay, you could buy a Model 2, you could buy a Model 1, but the launch model with Alter Beast included is worth more money. And price charting doesn't necessarily differentiate against those. So you might see price charters listed at $200. Well, you try to go get one on eBay for $200. It's not happening. Anywhere from $4.99. I've seen it up close to $8.99. I don't know if they have sold for $8.99. I haven't checked that, but yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty expensive. And the cool thing to me though is that its sentimental value is I would never sell it. First of all, you know, I don't care. And I think Lyndon has a few games like that too. But it's my favorite system, and I don't care how much it's worth. It really, you know, that doesn't affect me that much. But it's cool that I got it at launch and I've had it this whole time. So I paid the original, what, $189 for it. But yeah, and you know what's, it blows my mind getting on eBay right now, because there was times you probably could have got that for $100 not too long ago. Seriously. Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I think the pandemic has had a lot to do with that maybe, but it was already heading in that direction before then. So, all right. So we kind of talked a little bit about collecting towards, for value, and I don't know, did anybody else have anything to kind of throw in on that? I know Ryan kind of gave his opinion on that. I don't know, talk about it a little bit more if you want, Ryan. Collecting for value as opposed to, I don't know, but.
Yeah, one of the things that I that I think about, if I am gonna get a game, I have to. One of the things that I think about is, okay, what are the chances that this game, excuse me, is going to gain value versus lose value? The nice thing about video game systems is that, to some degree, aside from the current situation that we're in right now, it's predictable, because first it was NES,
Yeah.
and then it was Super Nintendo, and now we're kind of in a N64 bump right now. And GameCube is a weird one. It's always been kind of hot, but especially now. And I'm telling you, folks, Wii's not that far behind, and so for that reason, I feel like I'm actually on the wrong end of the collecting market, because I'm going after Super Nintendo. And aside from the weird market that we're in right now, Super Nintendo is a terrible system to collect for right now. It's just going to plummet. You know what I mean? And there will always be some games that stay high. Your Earthbounds, your Haganes, your Chrono Triggers, the ones that people come back to again and again. But for the lesser known ones, even like something like Pocky and Rocky, your average person isn't going to know what that is, and probably have never played it. It's way up high right now, but no game or no collectible item continues to increase in value forever. That's impossible, right? And so inevitably, we're going to see, I think, a fairly big shift downward with Super Nintendo. We've already seen it with NES. I mean, NES was hot, 10 years ago. And so that's the other thing that I kind of think about. I'm curious what you guys think, though.
Yeah. So, Mark from Dad Racer, do you collect for value? Does that play into it when you're out collecting games?
Not really. I just try to get things at a good price whenever I don't really collect for value. My whole goal in collecting when I first started, recollecting everything, I had in my head, and I wound up making a list of the things that I had as a kid. And my goal was to try to get everything that I had. I still don't have everything that I had. I actually, in a lot of cases, I have a lot more. Okay. So there's a lot of games that I have here that I never had, but there's just a couple games that I still haven't reacquired. Now, in the process, through the internet and through YouTube and just picking up lots and discovering things for the first time, I've gained way more games than I had as a kid. But these are all, a lot of them are ones that I did not have. So anyway, no, it wasn't about value. I just had a sort of back of my mind goal to try to get my sort of childhood games. And if I can find some here and there in addition to that, then it's just gravy. I mean, there's an absolute ton of games here, that are undiscovered to me. So that's part of the fun of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, my original goal was just to try to get, close to what I had before for the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo. And
that's, you brought up a good point. That's one of the coolest things to me about collecting nowadays is when you come across a game you've never played before, didn't really know about it, you pop it in and you're like, man, where's this game been?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I mean, try to put a dollar value on that, right?
Yeah, seriously. That's what's awesome. Well, there's some
magical times.
Awesome but, Lyndon,
I do not collect for value, or I never have, but I've been doing this a long time, since 2001. That's when I started going back and buying old stuff. For like the only time in my life, I was a trendsetter. When I started collecting, there was no value to any of it. I used to pick it up all for $1 at pawn shops everywhere. But that's changed. When now you're seeing all these sealed and graded games selling for $50,000 to $100,000, $1 million, whatever. You got people on Pawn Stars all the time with bringing these high dollar games in. That one guy comes out and says, "Oh, it's worth thousands and thousands," and it may be. I don't know. The problem with that is, yeah, I like it because this is something I'm passionate about. I enjoy this, so it's cool to see something that I like be worth money. But it has really hurt the way I collect because I'm an old school guy. I've always enjoyed going out to the flea markets and yard sales, the pawn shops, and wheeling and dealing face to face with people. Yeah, that's just me. I'm a friendly guy. I get along with everybody. So I like that. But now I find when I go to the flea markets and stuff, you run into one or two things. Every once in a while, you'll find somebody that's just trying to get rid of stuff and get a good deal. But most of the time I run into either the people know what they have, know about price charting, and are wanting list price for it, or they're crazy and think they're worth their weight in gold and want $100 for 3 NES games that are only worth $15. Yep. So the landscape has changed to where the best deals are online and not eBay and Amazon. Those have been around a while, and you can find good deals on there. But it's all these other sites like Ryan is talking about. And there's a lot of them. And that takes a lot of time and effort to search through those and do the shopping and the wheeling and dealing. And I just have not made that transition yet to find those type of deals. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm kind of following Ryan's lead here.
Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Well, I'm not going to spend as much as you.
Can I point one thing out, though?
Absolutely.
So when I first started collecting, I collected everything, right?
Yeah, me too.
If it was a video game and it was cheap enough, I picked it up. If it was $1 or 50 cents, I picked it up. And then I got to a point where I was looking around my game room and it looked very impressive. And it was a lot of garbage, right? Because that's what you run into a lot of the time is just a lot of sports games, a lot of doubles, and so at some point I said, okay, I need to narrow this down. And I started looking, at different games. And one of the things that I would look at was value. And what I would do is say, okay, is this game valuable because it's a good game? Or is this game valuable because it's rare and terrible? For example, Home Improvement on the Super Nintendo is rare and terrible. But for the most part, with the exception of the Super Nintendo, I got rid of all the stuff that I was like, I'm never going to play this. But it was mostly lower price games. I hate to say it. And so like the whole collecting for value thing, I think it's impossible to talk about that without also talking about the valuable games are also oftentimes really good games too. Not always, but a lot of the time.
Yeah, they are.
We're two different people then, because I'm keeping all my stuff. That's not the garbage, the good stuff, the bad stuff. I want it all.
And that's not to the exclusion of cheap games or bad games. Not at all. There's a ton of great cheap games. Don't get me wrong, but yeah. So I don't know.
Well, Jason from Kinda Cool.
Yeah, just to hit on Ryan's point a little bit, I love that. Like when I actually know I'm going to throw down some money to invest in a game, I like the combination of a good game meets a rare game, right? I think like if anything's going to hold its value, it's those. And plus, you know what? It's fun to play, right? So that's a great point. I'm glad you touched on that one. But my thoughts on collecting for value and those types of things. I'll just say this: like one thing I've always liked about the retro gaming hobby since I've got in it is there's so many different ways to approach it, and there's no one true definitive way to say this is the way, right? So you've got those people out there that are playing on original hardware on CRTs, and they're saying this is the way, and you know what? They're right. Then you've got people out there that are saying no, you've got to mod your consoles. It's got to go into an upscaler, and it's got to go into a crazy nice OLED TV. You know what? Those guys are right too. Then you've got that guy that looks at your collection and says, you know what, you should have just bought a Raspberry Pi. You know what? He's even right. He's even right too. So we've got this new collector that's kind of hit the scene recently. We've seen him on the news with these $1 million games and things. And they're basically saying, hey, we want to take a game, we want to seal it in acrylic, put a grade on it, and it's never touched by human hands again, And you know what I say? That's a pretty darn good way to collect. I know that might be shocking, but like, here's my upbringing. Like my dad, when I was a real little kid, showed me his coin collection. He was a coin collector, right? And he showed me mint, terms like mint, uncirculated, and that got into my blood. It got into my DNA, man, and it just rode with me for my entire life. So every passion that I've had that had anything to do with collecting, it's always looking at quality and mint. And so I get it. I get where those people are going with it. You know, and I'm okay with it. I think that's a kind of a cool way to collect. I see them at conventions and things now. Anytime there's a sealed game, you know, that's a mint sealed game, there's always a swarm of people around it talking about how they're going to get it graded and could they flip it and all these things. And you know what? I'm fine with that. It's pretty cool. It's a new conversation that we didn't hear a lot before, but it is interesting. You know, I do like it. So that's my take on it. I know it might be a little bit controversial. I know, you know, a lot of people have different feels on that, but, you know, that's just my take. You know, in regards to collecting for value or investment, you know, look, I look at it like this. If you've got some disposable income that you already had earmarked for like a steak dinner or maybe a movie out, and you're like, you know what? I'd rather just go ahead and buy like a really nice Super Nintendo game or maybe a Sega Genesis game or even a Saturn or whatever it is. You know, those are experiences, but they're going to be gone, you know. But if you buy that game, you get the experience of playing that game, possibly put it on a shelf, and 8, 9, 10, 12 months later, it may not only be just the value that you actually pay for it, but maybe even more, right? So that's cool. And it's not guaranteed, but you've got a chance, right? You've got a chance. So, you know, don't spend every last hard-earned penny you made on games because it's not a smart move, right? But if you got some extra income there that's kind of burning a hole in your pocket and you were going to burn it on something else anyway, throw it at a game, man. You could do a lot worse. So
that's right. Yeah, that's an excellent point.
Jason, I think you're right. There is no wrong way to collect unless it's disc only. I mean, can we say that disc only is a wrong way to collect?
You don't have the binder, the 3-ring binder.
Yeah, it's just a
sexy
spindle.
way to collect.
Oh, the spindle.
Yeah.
That's the
probably
way to
the
go.
least sexy way to collect. When somebody rolls up with a case logic, you're like, oh no, all right, what do you got? You know, when you're out there hunting, everybody here has been through that, right? Like you find the case logic.
Yeah.
You know, you still peruse it, but you may not be as excited as you were when they told you they had 100 PS2 games
like,
that you could look
is there
for.
GameCube? No.
I got a question for you guys. Is there anything that you have in your mind that's sort of like a holy grail item that you always have your eyes open for that you'd like to add to your collection?
Man, that's got Ryan written all over it. He's got to go first on that one, man.
I need to reassess my priorities because for the longest time it was Hagane, and then a buddy of mine found it for $50 and a legit copy of Hagane, and then many years later, well, and recently actually, he sold it to me. So that has been my holy grail for so long that you know, I on my channel I talk about how I feel like I'm like the actor that won the Academy Award, and now what do I do? You know, so don't get me wrong, I'll have a new goal.
There's
I just don't
something.
have one yet.
Right.
So I'm just kind of relishing in that moment. So
cool. All right.
Yeah. For me, it's Earthbound.
Oh, yeah.
That's a game that I didn't experience until way, way, way later. And just a sort of a life-changing experience in gaming there. Amazing game. And, you know, it's probably doubled in price, you know, in the last few years. So it'll
come down.
I wound up looking at it, I'm like, oh, that's really expensive. Then, you know, a few years passed by. Oh, now it's like really expensive times 2. Yeah. What are you going to do?
I feel like being a collector just means being patient, you know, because it'll come back down. They all come back down, you know.
And you got to be consistent really too to find deals anymore. You got to be out there almost every weekend, you know.
Right.
But yeah, I would say my holy grail, I don't know. I really would like to have an Alien vs. Predator for the Atari Jaguar, complete in box. Sealed would be great, but you know what would happen if I got one sealed? I'd open it.
I was going to say.
I've got it loose in my collection right now, but I would love to have all the overlays, all the stuff that came with it, but I would open it up, man. The last thing that I think about when I'm buying a game is if it's going to be valuable 10 years from now. I'm sorry, I just don't. What I think about is I want to play it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did get a sealed Atari Jaguar game not too long ago, and I opened it up and played it.
Yeah, I understand that.
So yeah.
And a WADA employee shed a single tear when that happened.
Somebody left some comments in the comments section there about Wada.
I saw that.
Did you? So Linda, is there a holy? That's a very good question.
It is a great question. I could say several, but of course, since I'm an NES guy, Little Samson.
Yeah.
And I say that knowing that I'll never get it. But the bad thing is, back when I started collecting in the early days, there were a few games that could bring a little bit of money.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember paying between $15 and $20 for both DuckTales 2 and RC Pro-Am 2. And I remember seeing Little Samson. I had a list even back then of rare games. Little Samson at that time, in 2002 or 3, was $75.
Wow.
And I thought that was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was going to the pawn shop buying games for 50 cents or a dollar every week, just coming out with a handful. Just wasn't even trying to collect, just spending $5. Now I wish I'd spent 20 or 30 every week.
Yeah.
And got everything I've seen. But I say that because I know I could have gotten it back in the day and never knew. I just never thought it would end up like this.
Yeah.
So really, any of those top 10 for the NES, I'm not sure if DuckTales 2 is even in the top 10 of licensed games. I don't think it would be. It'd be close. But man, I missed out. If I had only known.
Well, yeah, if I could go back and get my younger self and say, yeah. Jason, you got any holy grail items that you're kind of always on the lookout for?
If you guys know me, I'm more of I love the hardware. I've always found the hardware a little more exciting than the software, and not that I don't like software, that I don't collect the software, meaning the games, but I pretty much have all my realistic, grails acquired, and it's kind of like Ryan said, you got to move the goalposts on yourself to get some new ones, after you acquire all the ones you got. If I were to probably say I have some grail pieces that I'm chasing right now, it probably is in the Neo Geo family, because I just really do love collecting for that one. And we talked about, how safe is this? I feel like Neo Geo stuff, even though the entry price is so high to get into it, it is some of the safer type of stuff you can actually, I'm going to use my quotes, invest in. Because as long as there are guys about my age out there that understand what this thing is and what it's all about, and we talked a little bit about that, you're going to have guys out there trying to reacquire it, right? Try to scratch that itch that they were never able to scratch back in the 90s. And this is like the pinnacle of that, right? I would say that there's some NES games like Little Samson, some things like that I would like to get. But if I were to spend that money, I would probably invest it in Neo Geo games, complete games that I would probably just put on a shelf, right? And just let them sit there and look cool, and may or may not increase in value. But you're probably not going to see the bottom drop out of the Metal Slug series anytime soon on like the AES, or if we went nuts here, like one of the most valuable games that's out there is the golf game for the AES.
Neo Turf Masters.
Yeah, Neo Turf Masters. Yeah, it's like I think it goes anywhere from like 25,000 to 35,000 complete.
Yeah.
So, if you were to get
it's ridiculously good.
We talked about grail pieces, and even when the market falls out for everything else, the grail pieces kind of stick around. They hang around. They don't devalue while the rest of it kind of bottoms out. So, if we're talking about investing in safe and all these types of things, I'd stay in the Neo Geo family, at least for the next 15, 20 years, while guys like me are still on the green side of the grass, So
my cousin, first time I experienced Neo Geo, brought it over, and he had the case, he had the gold system, he had the 2 arcade sticks, brought it over, we broke it out, hooked it up to my TV, and I was just blown away. It is 1-to-1 arcade game. It's amazing. So I called him, when I started kind of recollecting, I'm like, hey man, you still got that AES? And he's like, no, a few years ago, I let a friend borrow it, and I've never seen or heard from him again.
See, Joel, that's where you have to say, what was that friend's name?
Yeah.
And where do they live? And what's their contact information?
How do you spell that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have done a better job of going over, for the few people out here that might be watching this that don't know what it is. It was, like you said, chasing that dream of playing the arcade games at home. It was that realized back in the early 90s, and everybody has a crazy story about the Neo Geo. I remember we heard about a kid that was like 5 neighborhoods over, and we rode our bikes all the way out there. We probably shouldn't have been that far out, from the house, but we heard a rumor that the guy might have one. And of course it was fake. It was lies. Right. But we rode our bikes 5 neighborhoods over to get a hold of this guy and, hopefully maybe have a chance at playing Neo Geo at his house. And those are the types of things you did, to go Scratch that itch if you could find one. But
I knew one guy that had one in school, and his dad was a lawyer.
Yeah.
I do remember playing it one time.
Jeez.
One time at his house, he played it.
That's pretty cool because I never. So right now in this little chat, we've got somebody that found one in the wild for sale, somebody who owned one kind of relatively close to the actual debut, and somebody that actually knew one. That, man, I didn't have any of that stuff, right? You know, I didn't know anybody that had one. I didn't actually see or handle one until I bought one for my retro collection. So it's kind of cool that you guys have had that experience out there in the wild.
My cousin, he raised puppies when we were, back in the day, and he sold all of his puppies. And he took all of his money. His parents were trying to teach him how to invest and save money, and he invested in a Neo Geo AES gold system. All right, so we got I got some questions for you. I got some a pop quiz coming up here.
Oh man!
But before we start that, it's
run.
Before we start that, I was a little forgetful at the beginning of this show. We were going to do some quick shout outs of some YouTube channels we've been watching, but we're laid back here on the Retro Gaming Roundtable, so a little change in order is not going to hurt anything, right? I'm gonna go first, and I'm gonna break all the rules. So usually it's Lyndon and Mark breaking the rules here, but I've got 4 shout outs, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. I just want to shout them out. One is Ask the Cheese Gaming. He's been around when I started. Me, him, and Mark, I know, met on Contagious Collections YouTube channel, I believe.
Yep.
I think that's right.
That's right.
Alex from Ask the Cheese Gaming is always dropping a comment on my videos. He's just a really good guy. He puts out some great content. Very passionate, does a lot of different things. So Ask the Cheese Gaming. And then a guy I met through him, Mockingjay YT. He's got a very good channel as well. He does some very cool retro live streams. And he lets people kind of pick what he's going to play. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So Mockingjay YT. And then we got 2 guys in our trade group that have started creating content. And that is the coolest thing ever, man. Talk to these guys, and they leave comments, and then all of a sudden they start putting out videos. That's awesome. So Joshua Moore, check out Joshua Moore. And I'm going to have links to everybody's shout outs in the description here. And we also will make sure we get a link to everybody on the table, and we'll have their links in the description as well. But Joshua Moore has just started creating content, and very passionate about retro gaming. Has a lot of really cool Japanese import games, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool, man. So Joshua Moore, Jonathan Heiss. I hope I'm saying the last name correctly. Jonathan
I think
Heiss.
so.
Yeah.
Man, I might be retiring after watching 2 or 3 of his videos, because dude, he is way ahead of the game. He just started, and the quality of what he's putting out is ridiculous. Very good humor, very good editing skills. And so those are my shout outs. Ask the Cheese Gaming, Jonathan Heiss, Joshua Moore, and Mockingjay YT. All right. Mark, did you have a shout out?
I did. It's Good Morning Retro. A couple of guys. They're just an absolute riot. Please check them out. Really good show.
I'm gonna have to check them out.
Good morning Retro.
All right, awesome. Lyndon.
So mine this time is another UK channel. It's Avix Fuddle, all one word, AVEXFUDDLE. Shows a lot of arcade games, arcade racers, stuff in the Master System. He's a racing fan, does a Formula One race every time to coincide with the race that's coming up. Shows a lot of arcade games I've never seen before. I guess some from Europe or something. I don't know. And he commentates it, but it's with text, and it's kind of off to the side. And he's very humorous with it. So it's very entertaining to watch and see stuff that I've never seen before. So go check him out. That's Avix Fuddle.
Sweet. All right. Jason, did you have a shout out this week?
Yeah, I do actually. Since we're talking all things Neo Geo today, at least for my stuff anyway, I wanted to throw out Glenn R. the Gamer GOAT, and that's GOAT as in greatest of all time. And anytime I think Neo Geo and I think YouTube, I think of this guy, man. He's got a really he's got a killer collection. Let's face it, right? And he's got pickup videos that'll blow your mind. With you talk about Holy Grail pieces for Neo Geo, this guy pulls them down on the regular, man. And he's just a really great guy. He collects for everything all the way up into modern too. But just super approachable, and his passion for gaming and everything gaming comes through in everything he does. Go check him out. Glenn R. the Gamer, GOAT. Great channel.
Awesome. Ryan, did you have a shout out, man?
I do. The channel is Pickflip. This guy, he's doing the same things that I'm doing, except better. And he's just a really nice guy. And it amazes me because he has... he's a charge nurse for a COVID ward in a hospital. Wow. So, just busy all the time. And at the same time, still manages to carve out some time for game hunting. And everybody that he runs into, he's just like the nicest guy. And I think that he's a good example of the type of game collector you can be if you're still going out there and interacting with people and just treating everybody with respect, but then also, getting a good deal every once in a while too. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I know that like sometimes game collecting can be really aggressive, but he does a really nice job of keeping the humanity in that process.
Dude, that's awesome.
Great.
That's great. And I think that, kind of all of our shout outs from the very beginning of this has been kind of guys like that, down to earth people. Not gatekeepers.
Yeah, for sure.
Not going to mention any names, but there's a few gatekeepers I don't care for. But all right, so we got 3 questions.
Uh-oh.
We got 3 pop quizzes. All right, so let's do this a little different. We'll start with Ryan this time. What do you hate about collecting in 2021?
Oh. I do not like that when I go to a game store or a garage sale or a thrift store or something, that I am positive that whatever information I have in my brain about how much something is worth is invalid. I need that phone. How much is a Mario Kart on Super Nintendo right now? I have no idea. Because it just changes. This market is so volatile and it changes every day. And so it's really hard. I used to have that just down, and it's really hard now to stay on top of price trends. And so I feel like a jerk for taking out my phone and looking stuff up, but I feel like you have to.
Yeah.
So
that's all right. Cool, man. That was not the answer I expected. So that's cool.
Oh.
I used to be that guy that when I was at work, somebody would say, "Hey, man, what's Super Mario Brothers 3 for the NES going right now, complete?" And I could just tell them right away.
Yep.
But not no more. All right. So Mark, what do you hate about collecting in 2021?
Well, in 2021, it just seems like, at least in my area, everything's been real dry around here. Normally I have some luck on Nextdoor and Facebook and Craigslist, and it's like a whole bunch of nothing this year. I'm not exactly sure why. I had good luck last year during the first year of the pandemic. But for whatever reason this year, I'm just seeing a whole bunch of nothing. So I guess it's just that things are seemingly starting to dry up. And now it seems like I have to start to look at eBay once again. I'm starting to dabble in Mercari. Thank you, Ryan, for the suggestion.
Yep.
Starting to look there. But the things I hate, I think the thing I like about Facebook and Nextdoor and Craigslist is that, you're just looking for random stuff, random game stuff. When you go on Mercari and eBay, you're looking for a specific item for a certain, you're kind of going in there with a purpose. You know what you're searching for. And I think it's interesting going to garage sales and going on Facebook Marketplace and just doing a general search for video games. And unfortunately, it's usually just a bunch of like Leapster games in my area. A lot of junk. But that was sort of exciting, you know, finding not only good stuff, but good stuff at like, you know, a good price, you know. And I'm just not finding even good stuff regardless of the price. So it's just kind of been dry this year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Lyndon.
I have a different view on this. I don't like feeling so protective of everything because of the value of it all now.
Sure.
I feel like I need to put a vault in my house. When I come home now, the first thing I do when I come in the door is check all my stuff's still there, but I've not been robbed. Because of you know, the notoriety it gives now with all these big games selling for so much. Everybody knows that retro games are at least worth something. So man, it's just like, I don't know. Am I the only one paranoid like that? The rest of you come in the house and look and see if all your games still there.
No.
Mine are insured, so
Yeah, there you go.
Come and take them. Come and take them.
yeah.
We'll come back to Jason and he'll have just a wall of Neo Geo games, man, after
Hey, they were insured. They were insured.
They're insured. Yeah.
It's a victimless crime.
There you go. So Jason, what do you hate the most about collecting in 2021?
You know, I'm gonna kind of go with some of the similar kind of tone that we've heard here, like the inability to find things at Goodwills and Salvation Armies and places like whatever, you know, those types of places. Like, used to be able to kind of stumble in there and at least come across something, but like everybody's mentioned, like everybody knows that they're worth something, so they're usually super inflated, or they go online and sell online, so it's almost like not even worth going there anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so we touched on that. And then the second thing I would say, and this has probably been going on really since kind of the pandemic started, but really the lack of conventions. You know, my world revolved around getting to, you know, 3 big conventions a year. And like, you know, we didn't have any last year. We had one this year so far, and it's looking like the next one might be in jeopardy. So I really miss that experience of getting out there and just seeing stuff in the wild. You don't know what you might pick up. You got a couple things in mind, but you never know what you're going to come home with, and getting to see other people that are passionate about shopping for games just going nuts. You know, it's just, there's an energy and an excitement there that's, you can't replicate any other way in the hobby. Right. So I miss the fact that, you know, those are still kind of somewhat in jeopardy right now. We'll see. Things are, you know, kind of changing, shifting, morphing, but just like so much else, we don't know what's going to happen in 3, 4, 5 months, you know, we'll see. But
Right.
Anyway, that's my take on it.
Mine, the thing that I hate the most is when you go to a garage sale and you walk upon Super Mario Brothers loose for the NES and they've got a $20 price tag. It's a garage sale, man.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
come on. And just the other day I saw somebody selling a CRT for like $200. So, you know, all these CRT, well, these 2 and the other 3 I have in my garage, were all free. They're all free, man. They're like curb pickups. So, yeah, that's a little bit annoying. All right, so we got our next question, and I think this might be a little redundant because you guys may have talked about this. Ryan, what system do you like collecting for the most? And I think I know your answer because I think you kind of covered this, but
Yeah, you know, it is the Super Nintendo. But what's weird about it is I didn't grow up with the Super Nintendo. I grew up with the Genesis. So
Yeah.
I don't know why that happened, when that happened. I have a lot of fondness for the Genesis as well. But yeah, I probably the Super Nintendo, and specifically the box stuff. I really, really love the paper.
that's cool though. Yeah, the box stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might have to edit you out of this entire video at this point. Just Mark.
I would understand.
That's because Ryan understands the power of the NES, Super NES, man.
That's right. Yes.
My heart is with the Genesis.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But my mind is with the Super Nintendo.
So see, he's saying logic dictates that he should like the SNES. I get that too.
You know, I was kind of happy to have a Genesis guy on the another Genesis guy on the show. And I haven't even brought up the quote yet, so I'm gonna stay away from it.
You're on a roll.
I know. I'm doing well. So, Mark, what is your favorite system to collect for?
For me, it's the Nintendo. I mean, I'm a Nintendo kid and Super Nintendo, but way more so the NES being in my wheelhouse. Cool. Yeah. I mean, I'm focusing on Nintendo and Super Nintendo.
That kind of surprised me. I thought maybe it was Super NES as well, but NES is out there in front. So that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, they're close, but more so Nintendo. Yeah.
Cool. Lyndon.
I'm an NES guy by a long shot. By far, the biggest part of my collection is what I have for the NES. I'm getting close to. I'm almost at 400 games for the NES.
Wow.
Nice.
That's great.
That is great. And you could trade those for a lot of Sega Genesis games. But I think we know what Jason's answer is going to be, but I'm going to ask anyway. So, what system do you like to collect for the most?
What do you think? What do you think it's going to be?
I think that it's going to be an AES, Neo Geo AES.
No, you'd be wrong. My favorite system to collect for is actually the NES. When I want to spend a ton of money, you know, and it's an apples to apples, I might pick the AES. But if I'm just going out shopping, I find the most excitement bringing home NES games because, like everybody said, the nostalgia around it. We did the most nostalgic systems. Nintendo was mine, NES was mine, and I still get a little thrill every time I bring one of those home. And even if it's a $5, $8 one, I just, you know, when I go to these conventions, my eyes always gravitate towards the NES, even with all the sparkly stuff around it. I'm always looking at what's that NES game that's right around it, you know. So
that's cool.
It's in my blood, and it's probably never gonna change. So that's
all right, man. You surprised me. That's cool.
Yeah.
Mine right now. So mine changes all the time. I mean, it really does. I've got a lot of Sega Genesis games that I either wanted or that I had back in the day. So my focus has been on the Atari Jaguar lately. That'll be different by the next episode, I'm sure. But right now, you know, and it's kind of went from, you know, Sega Genesis, NES, Super NES to TurboGrafx 16, and that TurboGrafx 16 is right there too. So cool. All right. So the hardest question of the night, the last question. This one's important. So Ryan, who was your favorite pro wrestler of all time?
Oh man, that is the hardest question of the night because I didn't watch wrestling growing up.
That's gonna make it really hard.
I like Jake the Snake because Snake.
There you go. That's a good choice right there, man.
I'll tell you what. Since I can't really participate on that level, something I was thinking about when folks are talking about one of the hardest things about 2021 and collecting, I was also thinking about one of the great things about 2021 and collecting is that because it's so uncommon to run into stuff in the wild and it is so hard to collect right now, communities like this are popping up, you know, and because we need to help each other, we don't have any other options. But that's been really great and really positive, and people, I don't know, I've actually really enjoyed, you know, our community and the people in it, and communicating and doing trades and getting to learn about each other. That's been a lot of fun. So that is absolutely true. Mark, thank you very much for starting our trade group. It's been awesome.
Great.
It's been awesome.
Yeah.
And
thanks for coming on too, man. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Another takeaway that I got was that there are 3 guys in this group that are collecting NES. So you can just send all your Super Nintendo stuff, Mike.
I think all my stuff would be duplicates for you, man.
Yeah, maybe.
They can do that if you send me all your Atari Jaguar.
I got one you don't have.
I can't see what he's got there.
Is that Mr. Nuts?
Yes.
Oh,
I can't trade that.
Isn't that strange? That's the name of my favorite pro wrestler too, right there. So that's all right. So Mark, who's your favorite pro wrestler of all time?
I think I got the most excitement out of watching Macho Man Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Maybe tied, but I mean, there's a bunch of others that come to mind. I mean,
cool.
You know, I don't want to just rattle them off because I'll probably be, you know, I might be taking some of yours, but yeah, those are the first 2 that come.
You already took one of mine, so that's okay.
Oh, sorry. Well,
that's okay.
Too late.
Lyndon, I bet I know, but I'm interested.
Come on now. North Carolina has 3 favorite sons who
Oh,
went out into the world of sports and become the hero among legends.
that's one of the ones I was thinking.
And that's Michael Jordan,
Mm-hmm.
Dale Earnhardt,
Mm-hmm.
and the Nature Boy.
Yeah.
Great player.
Styling and profiling, man. Yeah. All right, Jason, you got an answer
Well,
for this?
My personal favorite when I was coming up was Jake the Snake, but since he was already taken, I'm gonna throw one out there for my son because he's a huge fan of the British Bulldog, and I like the British Bulldog too,
that's
so I'm
cool.
gonna go British Bulldog for this one.
Yeah, that's great. Mine was and always has been, always will be Macho Man Randy Savage. And man, he was a jerk when I was, back in the day watching, but man, I loved him. I don't know why. It was awesome to watch him run around after Miss Elizabeth when King Kong Bundy was trying to steal her,
Oh, yeah.
All right, so there we go. That was pretty painless.
Great questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, really
Agreed.
good, Joel.
Good. Well, thank you. I kind of flubbed up the order of things, but hey, it's all good. We're good.
No, I mean, he just kept it unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it fresh, man. Anything that you guys want to add to this discussion that we've had today? It's been a great discussion. Had a blast.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for being
Joel,
on, man. Thanks
before
for the
we sign
face
off,
reveal.
You may want to throw a quick hitter out there about the Discord server, maybe, right?
Oh,
mhm.
thank you. Thank you, Jason. So we have, Ryan has set up a Discord server for the Retro Gaming Roundtable. So if anybody wants to, interact with us, get in there and talk with us, we would love to talk to you guys. Get on the Discord server. I've just discovered Discord, kind of, from Ryan, and man, it's awesome. Awesome. So yeah, I will put a link to that as well in the description, our new Retro Gaming Roundtable Discord server. Excellent. Thank you, Jason. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. Make sure that you check out 123 Gamer Man's YouTube channel. Make sure that you check out Dad Racer's YouTube channel. Make sure you check out Old School Games and Stuff. Uh-oh.
I was going to blow his head out.
There you go.
That was
Things loaded.
That was a concealed carry fail right there.
It was.
No gun accidents on this show, man. Come on.
A holster was snapped.
Old School Gaming Stories, man. Go check them out. And the Kind of Cool YouTube channel, Jason does a great job. All these guys are just really fun to watch. I really enjoy watching you guys. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you all for your input today. It was a great show. A lot of fun. So, all right. Well, you guys have a great and safe rest of your day.